Alright, hey everyone, Wanderbots here, and welcome back to Felseal. So I've done a little bit of grinding, and we'll deal with that later. To the Azure Fields! Mainly, I don't think I have any use for it.
Oh, the Azure Fields is, well, it is very blue. But what? Jellyfish creatures? And do we have another merchant to save?
Oh.
Oh no, a bandit kawa. You have found an elusive bandit kawa. They make a living supplying other bandits and running various shady deals, so it's best to take them down. You'll occasionally run into them during patrols. If you manage to defeat them, they will drop precious components, so they're a loot goblin, essentially. But they will try to flee the battlefield within a few turns, so you best hurry.
Let's see, I always gotta check. When I'm not streaming, I always have to double check my, my hard drive space to make sure that I am actually able to go. So, let's see.
Are there any people that can close the distance, especially, like, in short order? Like a very swift unit.
I mean, that's him,
yeah,
sort of.
That's true. It'd be cool if he had one of those rogue moves that does the teleport business.
Oh. Maybe we get that later. I'm not entirely sure.
Because that's a classic.
Problem is, we're actually ending up with too many characters. So I'm gonna add Yates to the party.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna add Anidine to the party. And
oh no! No Blade Wolf!
Yeah, no Blade Wolf is a problem. So actually, we'll add him to the party.
Realistically, we didn't need 3 casters.
No, so we're gonna do 2 casters, and then I might move Blade Wolf to being like a swords mage or a who knows what.
I mean, there are other classes we have yet to unlock,
Yeah,
so.
and realistically, it's not actually that big of a deal. Once we have unlocked a lot more classes, I'm probably going to reset everybody back down to level 1.
I really liked Blade Wolf's 2-bit roll in the last thing.
Which was?
I think he found something.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So he's like, we got this.
I forgot that he actually had a line.
What does...
He is a gadgeteer.
Huh.
So he increased that guy's speed.
I see. So the Kawa used a little drone of sorts to give him a boost? That's
Ancient
interesting.
Power. Holy Bolt? No. Dark Bolt? No. Rain Soul? No.
She seems to only be a close range combatant. Doesn't have the range for that.
Let's see. Warcraft. Fine. She does actually have a ranged attack.
Mm-hmm.
But, we're out of range. Oh, those are like weird, like...
Jellies. I said they're jellyfish.
Yeah, they're jellyfish, but they've got like...
There's something inside them?
Yeah,
like
it's like a
entity?
UFO kind of situation. It's weird.
Huh. Yeah, they have faces and what seem to be appendages, like arms.
Yeah.
Maybe they're a kind of telekinetic entity that... Or maybe it's a symbiotic relationship where one creature dwells inside the jelly. I don't know.
I did not realize how much damage he took there. Ouch.
Unless they're beings that... It looks like the only solid part of those jellies is perhaps the ring. Nah, maybe the tentacles too. But like imagine if they had a force field around them and they were some kind of weird ship as opposed to a living organism.
That's kind of what it looks like. Okay, so what are you vulnerable to? Water. Ah, 1 damage off. It's always 1 damage. Oh, wait, no.
Oh, no.
It did kill him. I wonder if it rounds up a little bit.
Quite frankly, if something is at 1 HP, you would think they'd be, you know, paralyzed on the ground and bleeding out.
Yeah, either that or my grind hacks are still rolling. Nope, they're not. Okay, that's good.
Oh. The grass has obscured even more enemies.
Yep, that's cool. Ow.
I mean, that's a sound tactic for predators. Ooh,
Well,
yeah, he needs healing. Speaking of very low health.
He does need healing.
But you're gonna take the opportunity to damage him.
He
You don't want to
has-
lose that loot goblin.
Yeah.
Lead a foot. Oh no! He'll probably... Oh.
Wait, he didn't go down?
How much... What?
What?
Yeah, maybe it missed or didn't affect him, or maybe
like
it was
I said,
a skill that didn't inflict
it
damage.
It could very well be. So I turn on invincibility when grinding sometimes with like the lower level characters, so I can just have one guy versus everybody.
Okay, it looks like you've got him.
Sort of. He's got a heavy resistance to dark. That's better. Okay, I'll just restart the game after this.
What do you mean by restart?
Just in case, like, any of the like, hacks that I was using to grind faster.
Ah, I see.
Are affecting the game, because it could very well be that Raynor is just actually immortal for this battle. It did also seem like he was taking a buttload of damage, though, which was confusing me. But I really honestly don't know what's going on.
Well, we can observe and see if there's anything else occurring in this battle that doesn't seem quite right. Actually, do the enemies have absurd amounts of health, or is that just... No, it's about the same. Okay. Then I can't say. 68? Wait a minute. That creature had 127 health.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Okay, you know what? How about this?
Oh.
I just saved. We could finish the battle, but I'm pretty sure whatever, like, hacks that I'd used earlier is just bleeding over. We could finish this fight, or we could start over and do it right. What do you want to do?
I suppose. It means it will be more difficult for you to get the loot goblin, but it means that it'll be fair and square.
Well, maybe not, because I noticed Raynor was taking, like, an obscene amount of damage, too. So... But yeah, full disclosure, I tend to use,
He likes to grind.
Well, I like to grind, but I also...
at a more expedient rate.
Yeah, because, like, the thing is, I straight up don't have time to do a lot of grinding, but I want to unlock a lot of those classes early.
An issue that we've had lately with a number of series is that, especially in RPGs, we progress to a certain point of the plot, and we're like, yes! We're anticipating getting close to the end and everything's awesome. Except, what are we hindered by? Not by the complexity of the boss fights, not by the game itself, just... I mean, I suppose it is a component of the game itself, but what it does is it bars you from continuing just because the adversaries that you'll eventually face are more... It's a pacing issue, I suppose. They have more health scaling and level and everything, more levels and stuff. So it's like, okay, like in a normal circumstances, if we were equal, it'd be fine. But oh no, it looks like we'll have to go back to previous levels and level up and continue leveling up. So I found that with Pokemon, for instance, I don't recall ever really having... Did you accidentally give him speed? Or what?
So, his fleet of foot thing undoes root.
Oh. So, what I meant was, in other games where your characters have a level and your opponents have a level, I find that I tend to prefer the games that have a very natural growth. So, let's go say, you were playing Pokemon, and you've caught an interesting team of characters, well, of Pokemon, I should say, and you're progressing to a gym. Now, I find that in those games, by the time you get to the gym, maybe your starter is a little OP. Perhaps it's a couple levels over the gym leaders. But typically your other Pokemon are about the same level as the gym leader's Pokemon, and obviously type differences influence the outcome of a battle anyway, because of the whole ×2 or ×0.5 damage and whatever. But usually you don't feel like you have to leave the gym disgruntled and going, I just saw that person has level 10s and I'm only at level 5. I'm gonna have to tootle around the tall grass for a couple hours and train up my Pokemon until they're at that level. Or maybe it probably wouldn't take you hours at level 5 to get to level 10, but maybe if it was a difference between level 40 and 50, if you know what I mean. So, it's just such a bummer to have to take time outside of the plot and outside of other activities to just mow through enemies again and again and again. And other games have varying means of acquiring experience. So maybe there's mini games, maybe there's puzzles, maybe there's special missions or quests. So it feels like you're doing something new. But in so many games, it's just go outside and kill more monsters, and that's how you get experience. But you don't want to have to go out and kill the same monsters over and over and over again, just so that you can get enough experience to progress in the plot and in the next major section of the game. Like, hopefully, by doing all the other quests and getting to all the other plot points, you would have been able to accrue enough experience that you wouldn't have to have this grinding set aside. And it's actually stopped a number of our series where we're so close to the end and we realize, oh yeah, the power scaling really did ramp up, and we've already pretty much, what would be the term for it? It's pretty early. We've already expended all of our other opportunities at new quests and new plot points. So at that point, it really is just the mindless grind. Why aren't you contributing to this?
I mean, you're talking and I'm trying to figure out how to get this thing, because effectively...
He's gonna leave the map next turn.
Who knows? But, like, the fact that it just undid my thing is obnoxious.
But I would think that you would be weighing in on this, because you're the one that's using hacks specifically so that you can get through the grind more swiftly.
Okay. So I think my main beef with it, in a lot of cases, is just the fact that... my main beef with a lot of these hacks, or not the hacks, my main beef with a lot of these games in general is that they've been artificially, like,
lengthened.
Increased difficulty-wise.
And I do believe that grind artificially lengthens a game, too.
Oh, absolutely. Like, always. The thing is, like, I guess I don't mind it in, like, this game, for example. The reason why I'm grinding is that not to get a higher level. Specifically, I actually don't...
If the creatures give you components that you need to craft other things,
well, they do.
Or they have multiple... Okay. If they have multiple purposes, then it would make sense, but...
And they do. And in this game, I would actually say, out of all of the, I can't hit him, can I? No. Kill him at least? Yes. Can I kill him at least? Heck no. Okay. But for this one, the enemies aren't actually that much higher level. In fact, it feels like the level scale is pretty reasonable currently.
Then why have you been grinding?
Because I want to get as many class abilities as possible.
Oh, so it wasn't necessarily something that was impeding our progress. You just wanted to acquire more class abilities?
Yeah. Let's see. Because the class abilities in this game are awesome. Oh. That's cool. They're, like, I don't know, it's more interesting, I guess, seeing what the different classes are and, like, how, like, the higher tier ones, for example, and so on and so forth. And so, like, I actually haven't been increasing the amount of EXP I'm gaining here. I'm actually increasing the amount of... If I do this, is it gonna hit her?
But then that completely decontextualizes everything that I've just been talking about.
So in this case, though, like...
So, we weren't being hindered by a level difference. You see, I didn't know your purpose for grinding.
Anyway. I mean, I have been doing a little bit of grinding. I'm also playing kind of scummily. Let's see, elementalism. What are these guys weak to? The answer is fire. I'm playing kind of scummily. As far as, like, building a lot of my characters, or, like, a lot of these battles, I will straight up, I will straight up, like, have characters take damage intentionally just so I can heal them more often. And so on and so forth. And that leads to weird gameplay that, you know, I might not normally do.
Now, is that shrine of any importance? The rock.
Which one? That?
No. Over on the far left. It's it doesn't it have like a special thing?
There's something over there. I was planning on heading that direction. But
did you already defeat the loot goblin?
No, it's over here.
Or
so I rooted it on the first turn. And
I
then
see it. It's in the grass.
I rooted it on the first turn, and then it proceeded to unroot itself because of its reaction. I might want to redo this battle, maybe, because effectively, what I was hoping to do is lock it in place so I could just wail on it. But that's not how it works. I don't know how quick it runs away either. Yep, escape. Enemy escaped. Because if I had done Fleet of Foot, let's just reload. If I had done Fleet of Foot, we would have actually caught up with it, but it was already too late, and I just tried rooting it again, but that time it failed out of the 25% chance, and it just was kind of crappy.
And you should send one person over to get that obelisk.
Eventually.
Okay.
Loot Goblin first.
Loot Goblin first, then that.
Yeah. The other problem is, a lot of these enemies have very specific, like, switch you around moves, so they just body blocked me and I was not able to do it. I realized that we could probably come back at a later date. And, you know, not have to worry about this. And,
But wasn't the one girl the buffer? Wouldn't she be more beneficial?
Not really. Her buffs are not amazing.
She doesn't have any, say, speed buffs or... No. Okay.
Trickery, we want to do Fleet of Foot. Mainly, I just have to get close to him.
Mm-hmm.
And this should do it this time around. As long as they don't somehow do, like, buttloads of damage to him. That guy is really fast, by the way.
Yeah, that he is. I mean, look at those legs, or arms, I should say.
Okay, well this time he's going up.
Yeah, he's running to a part of the map that he won't be easily able to flee from.
Let's see, what is he weak to? Not weak to Holy, but at least he takes more damage from it.
Nope, now he's cast Fleet of Foot on himself. You see, if you had a debuff, that would be really great.
Well, I have Root, and I have Steel buffs, and I've got a couple of things that I can do to the guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of actually getting the chance to do them to him. Let's see.
I think you can poke him with the spear.
Yeah, Spear's got a little bit more range. Fortunately, my casters are slow. There are some boots that I can get that I will probably end up pushing for eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I suppose my whole thing about the game lagging because of that was pertaining to other series that we've done, but I suppose in this game you just wanted to unlock more abilities.
Well, yeah. I'm trying to overgrind without making it without making myself overpowered, which is actually a little tougher. All right. Let's see. So, chuck a rock at the guy. Yeah, I can chuck a rock at him. Fortunately, there's a lot of these wolves that might... Oh, no, that works. That works for me. Does a chunk of damage, which I don't like. Wait, she didn't have a counterattack? I guess maybe Snapback avoids it. Owie.
Ah, and that goes through.
Yeah, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, though.
Wait, you can attack two at once?
It's got spells. Okay. So
what does that... Has that ice spell ever only affected one creature?
Rooting shot. Root him down. There we go. He's at our mercy. He just turned to look at me. Ow! Now, we might have some casualties here. We'll see.
It looks like it. But you don't want to lose Raynor.
Yeah.
Because he has all of those special abilities that allow him to inflict those conditions.
Let's see. Because I could do that, hit all three of them, but that would also hit Raynor. That's a bad move.
Haven't we encountered a number of Piccolo Koblakais?
Yeah.
It seems like a recycled name that they've used a couple times.
Oh yeah, they've only got so many names. Alright, and he's down.
Shellac powder.
Shellac powder. I don't actually know if that's really that helpful.
I find Tooth Gnasher an amusing name for a jellyfish monster because it seems like there's not a single tooth on it.
Now does that... Oh! That just strikes through.
Actually, how do jellyfish eat? Don't they just take things up into their tentacles and then draw it in and dissolve it slowly? They don't really have much for organs.
No, they don't.
They're peculiar creatures. Do you know what I think look really cool? You know Man of Wars?
Yes.
They look awesome. Because they're, what, bright blue and purple, and the tops of them are floating on the water. But I know that their sting is quite deadly.
Yeah.
It was interesting because the first time I'd ever heard of one was probably an Old Man in the Sea. Do you remember reading about the Man of Wars and Old Man in the Sea?
I don't remember them that well.
Because he was stuck out at sea, right? And had to weather a number of storms and such. And there was one point where he was stuck in his boat surrounded by Man of Wars, right?
I think so. I just remember that entire, like, book was just sad.
Mm-hmm.
Ow. How is she not dead? Okay, item. Potion. These guys hurt. This is part of the reason why I probably should be grinding a little bit. Because, yeah, they might be the same level as me, but they are just about as merciless, too. And they don't care about survival.
I wonder why they're called Man of Wars. Unless they're, like, Man of Wars. I'm pretty sure they're Man of Wars, but...
Yeah. No, I gotta be right there.
Maybe it's because... Was a Man of War a designation for a particular class of sailing vessel way back in the day? Like a clipper or a battleship or a brig... Actually, it wouldn't be a battleship. Battleships came later. But a frigate, you know, other designations for boats.
Yeah. Wow. His canings do a lot of damage. Okay. I do Flash Strike. It bypasses counter abilities.
I haven't played Battleship in a long time.
It was not great.
I think the thing is, it was... Part of it was chance because you were guessing, and then you had to figure out what ship lengths there would be, and you're essentially just bombarding spots around a point if you found out that you've hit a ship. So it was really who could find and then eradicate each other's ships more swiftly.
I think the idea of it was cooler than the actual execution, but also, like, my problem with a lot of things, especially board games, from our childhood...
Replayability is low.
Yeah. And so, my biggest issue is, like... So I want to do Vicious Slash. There we go. My biggest issue is, like, replayability of these old board games is pretty low. Especially compared to, like, video games. Which are... maybe not immediately replayable, but, like, they tend to have a lot more... mechanical complexity, which I really appreciate.
Well, I think it depends on the type of game. In games that involve, say, pieces, and say the basic, like, checkers or chess. Granted, chess is just about as complicated as you can get with the traditional checkerboard. Because each of the units, if you will, have their own rules attributed to them. Whereas checkers was very basic in comparison. Each piece behaved exactly the same until they reached the other side. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow, she does damage. Oh, it's because she's boon chaining. It's,
Remember to send someone over to that obelisk before the end of the battle.
I was hoping to kill all but one. Okay, I think that's right next to the obelisk. Activate. Obelisk clue number 2.
Key items can be viewed, okay. Maybe if you find the 3rd key, you'll be able to get something?
Yeah. So, I wonder if there's an obelisk I've missed.
When it came to boat-related games, one of my favorite ones was Broadside. It's an old game. I don't even know if they make it anymore because it was something in my father's collection from his childhood. But one side played a more heavily fortified series of ships that were protecting 4 stationary merchant ships. And then or actually maybe it had, I think they were more heavily defended. Or maybe the invader had more ships that were more powerful, but the defending faction had mines and cannons at their disposal. But only, I think, half the cannons functioned and 2/3 of the mines functioned. So you would have to plan where you put these pieces, and the opponent would have to decide how they would proceed through an area and whether or not there was any associated risk with, say, challenging a cannon or getting past a mine. And the ships themselves, you could only inflict damage on an opponent's ship if you could broadside them, which was the name of the game. And when you broadside, it's, you know, the sides that have the cannons on them? So what would it be? Because there's like, it's port and bow, right?
Yeah.
For the sides. So, but you couldn't attack from the front or the rear. Is that the aft and the keel? I forget. I'm not too good with my ship terminology. All I know is like there's, I see her blow off the port bow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wait, at that point, that would be, no. I'm frustrated and I want to know what each side of the ship is, because you can't get port and bow together.
Port is left.
And would bow be the front?
Yes.
Then? Okay.
And stern, port is left, stern is right, aft is back, and yeah.
Oh, okay. So see, you'd know it. Why didn't you correct me?
Sorry, brain was focused on the game for a moment.
That's true.
So the way you remember port from stern is port and left both have 4 letters.
Oh, okay.
That's the only way I've ever been able to remember it.
Nah, it makes sense that the bow is the front. So, in any case, when you move a ship, you can only move it 1 space per turn. And I think, I forget if you can turn it at the same time or if turning the ship is also a turn. So I think if you want to, you know how you're turning your characters so that they face a particular direction? It's exactly the same thing with broadside. Except I think in order to turn a character, you would have to take an entire turn for it. So in any case, ideally what you want to do is you want to be able to successfully broadside. Maybe is it a broadside when both ships are firing at each other simultaneously with their sides against one another, or can you broadside another ship that isn't broadsiding you? I think the point was you're supposed to yell out broadside when the 2 ships are firing on each other at the same time. I don't know. But the aim of the game was ideally you'd want to be able to fire on your opponent without them also firing back and inflicting damage to you as well. And different ships, I think there were the cutters, there were the frigates, there were a multitude of ships, and the most basic ones had only 1 sail on them. And then as you would have stronger ships, if you will, with up to 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 5 sails. And every time you got hit with a broadside, you would have to pop one of the sails off of the ship. And you would have accrued damage. And when a ship loses all its sails, it sinks. Do you think that's interesting?
Yeah. Rock.
So the aim of the invading group of ships was to get past the cannons and the mines and make their way into the bay and destroy the merchant ships. The merchant ships could be destroyed if they were just broadsided once. And there were 4 merchant ships. So the winning condition for the invading force, which was the red team, the red ships, was to get past your opponents and destroy the merchant ships. With the blue team, the defending team, you had to destroy every opponent's ship while maintaining at least one of the 4 merchant ships, keeping it alive. And there was a little bit of a different topography in the landscape and the waters themselves. And yeah, so I thought it was an interesting game for the time because it was an uneven game. It was one person is the defender and one person is the attacker. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It seemed like most board games back in the day, there were always equal conditions, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, because otherwise it was unfair or unbalanced.
Mm-hmm. Whereas I think this one, it presented a challenge. But it took into account the weaknesses that the defending side would have and afforded them a little bit extra with the cannons and the mines.
And I'm sure, like, it was probably inherently quite imbalanced somehow.
I'm trying to remember. I don't know how often my family played it, but I swear that there were instances where the invading force would win and the defending force would win. But I think it was more difficult for the defending force to win. Because the opposition, I think they had more ships at their disposal. And as soon as you found a way past the cannons and past the mines, you would be able to flood into the main bay and whittle down your opponent's ships. Well, whittle down the defending team ships. So an effective strategy for the defending side would actually be to send ships out as swiftly as possible and force your enemy to blunder into the functional cannons and the functional mines. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a couple of, like, video games, I guess, kind of like that. I don't know. I guess actual, like, just boats have never interested me.
Well, I think the reason why I liked boat games is, in a way, it reminded me of Star Trek. I think Star Trek is one of the few science fiction series that had heavily relied on
basic naval things.
Naval combat in a space setting. Or a science fiction setting, I should say.
Yeah, probably was. I don't know, I always found Star Trek combat to be less interesting than, say, Star Wars, though.
No, I know. Well, Star Wars was based off of, essentially, like, the dogfights of World War I and II.
Yeah.
The mini planes and stuff.
And for me, I enjoyed that a little bit more, especially with, like, the really big set pieces.
Well, I think what it does is it shifts the focus away from the crew and the captain to an individual. Like, an individual pilot is the hero, they're the ace, they're the flyer.
I think the other thing is, in a lot of Star Trek, they kind of up the ante by adding some, like, weird condition that they'd always have
powers,
to science magic through.
Yeah, like various shields and various weapon frequencies and... Yeah.
And it's like, I can sympathize with, like, you're kind of limited to whatever tools that you have. But for me, it's just like...
I think part of the reason why Star Wars may have been a little bit more exciting is because there were always multiple ships and each side was fairly well provisioned, whereas it always seemed like it was the Enterprise alone up against a more substantial force.
Yeah. But they always had to pull off some, like, wild...
maneuver.
Yeah, and it was, like, every single time, too.
Mm-hmm.
And
because they were alone and typically outmatched.
Yeah, and I think for me, that would lose me more often than it would, like, keep my interest, because it's just like, what weird maneuver are they going to pull off this time? Oh, they're going to reverse the polarity to the Schmidebeer, and then the Yabba Dabba Do proton torpedo straight into something's faceplate, and
I don't even know if people get in... there probably hasn't been a naval conflict in decades.
Not like a direct one, no.
Involving battleships and such?
I don't think so.
I'm trying to think if there have been any ships sunk since World War II.
Yes.
In that manner.
But not as, like, a direct battle, I don't think. Because, yeah, Vietnam was not a big, like...
No, but they're helicoptering people into the jungle. I don't believe Vietnam even had its own naval force.
No.
And
probably not the Korean War either. Same deal. And definitely not, like, anything in the Middle East.
And we weren't necessarily fighting... Like, who was supporting Vietnam and Korea? Were the Russians involved in that at all?
Yeah,
or?
Yeah, the Russians were, and to some lesser degree China, I think.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, U.S. history does not cover these wars particularly well, because they're embarrassing. And,
right.
And, yeah, so the winners write the history, and in this case, we've written it out, kind of. Anyway.
Yeah, because they definitely pushed revolutionary and civil war with us.
But the moment World War II ends, I mean, even World War II.
Oh yeah, and the World Wars, of course.
We studied World War I in detail, but I didn't really get a whole lot of World War II, period.
You see, for me, we studied more of World War II than World War I.
I don't know. Well, either way, we can continue this conversation on the next episode of Fell Seal Arbiter's Mark, or we'll get distracted by dogs again, or something. Anyway, see you guys then, and as always, thanks for watching.